To
Well,
this
you
day.
train obviously with Van Damme and then Billy Blanks and all those guys, but you're saying Lorenzo Lamas because I don't think his name comes up in the discussion when people say best martial artist ever on film. I mean, they might say Billy Blanks, they might say Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't think anybody has really said, "Oh, Lorenzo Lamas." You know, it's like,
Well, I did.
hey guys, welcome to part three of my interview with Jeff Langton. Make sure to check out the other two parts linked in the description below. In this one, we're going to talk about what happened to him after Lionheart, that very memorable role he played, Sonny in Lionheart. What happened to his career after that? And then also some very interesting insight into Lorenzo Lamas as the martial artist, because Jeff Langton trained and worked with so many guys like Billy Blanks, Van Damme, and of course Lorenzo Lamas, and he's got some interesting stuff to share. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, please help support the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. After Lionheart, you got the three-picture deal with PM Entertainment. Now, the first film was Final Impact with Lorenzo Lamas.
Tomorrow night, man. Neon Graveyard.
I'll be there.
So, did you even have to audition for that, or did they just say, "Hey, Jeff, you got a three-picture deal. Here's one of the films we want you in. This one's yours."
No, no, I had to go audition for that, and there was about every guy in Hollywood. I'll name them. Uh, Nicky Hill, the Dragon, Dale Jacoby, Vince Monaco, Gary Daniels.
Oh, he
There was
auditioned for that.
so
That's funny.
um everybody when I so I walked up and I see all my friends. The lines like a new movie just came out. The line was so long,
Mhm.
and so I walk up and they say, "Hey Jeff, you got to go back to the line." I said, "No, I got to go to the front and I got to register in." That's what they told me. So and there's a lot of guys, a lot of testosterone that day. I remember that.
Sure.
And so I walked up and the guy says, "Yeah, can I have your name?" Because you got to back then you got to sign in, okay? Back then you got to sign your name and you got to put your SAG number, all that stuff. They don't do that no more. And so the guy goes, "Oh, you Jeff Langton? Yeah, just wait right here." And I said, "Okay." So the guy goes in and he says, "Come on in, come on in." I said, "What about all these other guys? I don't want to piss them off." He goes, "No, no, no, no. We've been waiting for you."
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean by that?" He says, "No, we just been waiting for you. We want to see you." I said, "Okay, fine, cool." So I went in, and back then they used to go, "Okay, hi, tell us somebody. Hi, my name is Jeff Langton, and I got 3 black belts or 6 black belts or 500 black belts or whatever. I've been doing this and that. You give your spiel, and then the guy would say, "Okay, turn to the left, turn to the right, spin around, show us what you got, blah, 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 blah." And the guy goes, "Okay," he goes, "You just did that movie, Lionheart, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes." And they go, "Okay, thank you very much." And that was the end of that. So then I walk out. Now here's the repercussions of, "Hey, Jeff, man, we've been waiting in line and, like, hey, how can you walk in? And, well, you think you're a star now? And I thought you were cool." And they're all
Wow.
pissed off, you
Oh
know?
yeah, a lot of jealous people. Sure.
That's just the way it is back
Mhm.
then. That's the way it is. But they're all cool. Everybody was just trying to get a gig, man. That's the
But
basically what
basically,
it
let
was.
me ask this and try to better understand. You got a three-picture deal with PM Entertainment, but you still, I guess, have to do the audition process, though it looked like they kind of like gave you priority over these other guys, but you still have to audition for these roles anyway, even though
Well,
you
for
technically.
Final Impact, they didn't sign me. They didn't sign me. They didn't do that till after I did the Final Impact. I didn't have to
Oh, you got the
audition.
three-picture deal after Final Impact?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there was like, well, actually, I did Maximum Force, and then I did this O.J. Simpson movie that never got released because he got arrested at that time. I did some type of part, and then after that, my manager at the time, he said, "We're not going to be doing any of these more," and that's another chapter. That I auditioned for Stone Cold, and I got the part basically, and then they cut me, and they picked the guy who was a comedian because I didn't have a name.
Mm.
So that's another story. But going back to the Final Impact. So I'm at home, and I get a call, and they said, "Hey, can you be down at this gym?" It was Furban's gym in off of DeSoto. I don't know what town. I think that's Woodland Hills. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I went down, and that's where I met Lorenzo Lamas. And there was another guy by the name of Art Camacho there.
Okay.
And Art, um, he was like Eric Lee was there because Eric Lee was a fight coordinator.
Hmm.
And so they basically said, I'm going to meet Lorenzo. And so Lorenzo came out and said, let's say move around, did some grappling and all that other stuff. I said, it's kind of odd, because I guess he didn't know, he wanted to get to know me or something, so he could work with me or something. I don't know what it was. And and then he says, okay, that's cool. And then I met this kid, Michael Worth. You know
Okay.
Michael Worth?
Yeah,
That
sure.
was his first starring movie. And Michael was a sweetheart. I love that guy so much. He's such a wonderful guy. And so I just told him, try to give him my encouragement and everything. And he was just a great kid. That guy was full of life, that kid.
You ever watched Jake fight before?
It's the first time in person.
Go to school, kid.
Hmm.
That kid slept in Santa Monica with his dog in the back of his truck. He had a kind of similar story. And I just saw Michael recently, and at Frank Stallone's thing. I had a reunion,
Oh,
got all
really?
the guys together, and saw Michael. Michael's doing wonderful.
Hmm.
So anyway, sweet. I said, okay, whatever, man. Because in that town, you at that time, they could tell you have something until you're doing it. You don't really know if you have it, right?
Hmm.
So then I wait, and a couple of weeks go by, and they call me, said, are you still available? I said yes, and then they call me, and next thing I know, I was in Vegas shooting that movie.
Okay. Yeah. It's cool.
And I did the movie, and Lorenzo, you know, he was he's about one of the best martial artists I think I've ever worked with,
How so?
of
Just
all of
like
them.
technique wise or what?
Lorenzo was an Aido guy with the sword, the live katana. He did kendo. He did grappling, jiu-jitsu. He studied with Heel Cho. Um, the best out of all of them. Out of
Wow.
all of them, to
But
this
you
day.
train obviously with Van Damme and then Billy Blanks and all those guys, but you're saying Lorenzo Lamas because I don't think his name comes up in the discussion when people say best martial artist ever on film. I mean, they might say Billy Blanks, they might say Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't think anybody has really said, "Oh, Lorenzo Lamas." It's like,
Well, I did,
yeah, which is interesting because he worked with all these
but
guys. So,
I'm just saying. I don't take anything away from my other
no,
brothers.
of course not.
All my brothers, Billy's great, but
Mhm.
Lorenzo, he has the craft.
Wow.
A lot of these guys, they do just do kicking. They don't, they
Oh,
don't,
because
they
he did
don't,
everything like you
keep,
said, weapons,
they don't
grappling,
keep moving
everything.
forward.
Hmm.
You got to keep moving forward, man. You just can't stay like, hey, I'm a Taekwondo guy. You got to do weapons, gymnastics, boxing, grappling. Got to do all those things. You can't just be one dimensional in a movie industry. And I'm a master of all, but a master of none sometimes. But the point what I'm trying to say is that Lorenzo, out of all the guys that I ever worked with, that guy stunt wise, never, the guy would never hit you. You never had to think negative, like, oh, this guy's going to hit me. Have to worry about hitting me. He was always on mark. The guy, like when we did that fight scene in the graveyard, he was there a couple hours before marking it all out. I didn't even know that.
Oh.
So he takes that seriously. But he's a master Aido guy, and you know how hard that is to master Aido.
Mm.
That's what the live katana. Where you put it like an inch from someone's head. That's what he did, and he studied with the Japanese people, plus He'll Cho, he studied with him. Plus, Lorenzo went to a military school. That's where he went to school and he learned how to box. He knew how to wrestle. He knew how to grapple.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to, and if you go back and you watch those scenes, you could see him, and he did Renegade,
Yeah, that
Renegade.
was a cool show. I remember watching that in high school.
Like Lorenzo, the first day he said to me, I never forget this. I told Danny Trail this, and Danny this guy. Lorenzo said to me, "Hey Jeff, let's don't get to know each other all in one day. We're going to be here for the next 2 weeks."
Sure.
And he said that to me, and that always stuck to me. But but I understand what he was saying because, like, he had his character Nick to play, and I had my character. Like, you get to know each other, then you can't. You understand?
Easy, boy. You go in there, you get your ass kicked.
The guy was phenomenal as a martial artist, and I always give him credit.
Hey, how long was the production for Final Impact? Like, how long did you guys shoot that?
14 days.
That was only a 2-week shoot? That's ridiculous. Yep. Like, back in that's ridiculous because they still had the DVD market and home video, because Scott Adkins will complain, and it's a valid complaint, that he has to shoot his movies in like 3 weeks, whereas before you would get like 2 months or something back in the day with, like, I think Bloodsport was probably like a 7-week shoot, for example. So Final Impact was like literally 2-week shoot, the whole film.
Yes, sir.
That's ridiculous, man.
You telling me, we worked like 14-hour days.
Yeah. So that's what you were mentioning earlier, Jeff. You said a lot of your stuff they only shot in one take. That's it. Like, we got what we got. Move on.
Well, the thing is, how they did it was rehearse, and then they shoot it. Unless there's something really screwed up, that's all you get.
That sucks.
You telling me?
2 weeks.
Jeez, I mean, one time I did this movie called The College Kickboxer.
Oh yeah, you fought the main guy at the end of it. That's right. That one too.
And the people on that, they came from China. Wu Ping, and the guy, I'm still looking for him. If anybody could fight Tak Wing, that guy was the best coordinator. He was Donnie Yen. What's that guy? John Woo. All those guys, they all came from the same place. Because my Sifu, when I was in Los Angeles, I met a guy by the name of Carter Wong. Carter Wong was Thunder in what was that movie, David?
The Big
James
Trouble in Little China?
Big Trouble in Little China. God bless you. And I met Carter at the Palace, and he came up to me, and Carter took me as a student. I trained with him for a couple of years. I learned Iron Fist from him, how to do Iron Fist. I learned the single broadsword, double broadsword. I learned butterfly knives. I learned touched on Taekwondo, but he was my Sifu, and he was like one of my best friends.
Is that how you got into College Kickboxers? Because you knew Carter Wong?
College Kickboxers, that's another whole chapter on how that one came about. There was a guy by the name of Eric Sherman, and Eric Sherman, he used to direct film at the Pasadena Performing Arts School in Pasadena, and he taught directing there. His father was a famous director, Vincent Sherman. And Eric has a book out. You can probably buy it. It's about how to direct movies. It's by Vincent Sherman. Eric Sherman.
Okay.
And he talks about his father, talks about his life. And I don't know, man. They called me. I think it was Harry Mock. Harry Mock called me and said, "Hey, Jeff, they're looking for somebody to play the bad guy." And I went down there, and I met Eric Sherman, and then we shot the movie in San Jose, and we worked 16 hours a day on that movie, the Chinese. But the funny thing about the Chinese is that the Chinese guy let me, because I was a DP, I learned how to use the Airflex camera, the BL2, BL3, but I wasn't a loader, but I was a shooter. Because I went to school for lighting. I'm a master lighter. And Manny Katz trained me how to be a lighter. But so Tack Wing said, "Hey, I'll show you how to use a camera." I never forget this. This is very important. Back in the day, when you have a BL, that on the end of it, it's like kind of thing, a beige color lens thing. And he said, "No, no, you, no, don't put the eye to the viewfinder." And I go, "Tack, why?" And he goes, "You have a makeup on, it's gonna get the whole thing all screwed up." So I learned that from Tack. That's stuck in my head to this day.
That fight scene at the end, by the way, did you guys shoot that whole thing in one day?
That fight scene that we did.
At the end of College Kickboxers.
It's
kind of a long fight.
2
But he had
days.
2 days. He at least had 2 days to do it. Okay.
It was 2 days, and they had the Chinese. They the first time I ever worked with Chinese is that they bring a stunt team and that they'll do the choreograph because you're only gonna get 1 or 2 takes at the most. That's it. You got to understand something. One take with the film camera is about $1,500.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a minimum.
Sure.
It was $1,500 back then. I mean, you're talking in the 90s. I mean, what would that be now? I don't know. But so you get 2 takes, that's $3,000.
Jeez.
You have a digital camera, you could shoot 100 takes, maybe 200 takes.
Yeah. I mean, you're limited with time, but you're not going through film or anything, so you do save money in that respect.
So the point is, what I'm saying is that the Chinese, what they did, they developed a system. And what their system was is they have the person does a movement, like, you have stand-ins, but they would be like the stunt stand-in. They would go through the movements, and then you'd be sitting there standing there watching them, and they'd be doing it, the camera, the lights, and then you got to go in and you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it. There's no. They don't play around, and they get really agitated. They don't like to joke either. They're very serious about what they do. And I saw that they're very militaristic in what they do. So when they do all those movements, they just do it slowly, and then they say, "Hey, go do it now." So you go out and you do it, and now you see me doing a kick and the dragon sweep, then I said, when we put that together, if you go back in history, you look at that, and I was trying to incorporate groundwork into my thing because I knew that, I knew the Gracies, and I knew that was going to be a big thing coming through because like in the 90s, the early 80s, 90s was ninjutsu, then it became kickboxer, then it became grappling. You see that movie Red Belt with Joe Mantegna.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. What was that movie that you turned me on to that I really liked? The one about the Marine? You're the one that told me about that.
Warrior,
that's it.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Wow. That was one of the best movies I think I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Because you got Nick Nolte as the dad, you got Tom Hardy, you got real drama, and that's how they need to make martial art films like Red Belt and Warrior, because yes, we get the fights, we get that, but we need the story, the drama, the characters, and those had that. That's why those stick out as good films, not just good fight films.
You're absolutely right.
A man distracted is a man defeated.
It's an invitation from Jeff Frank.
You train people to fight. I train people to prevail.